Hello, this is Shadow Ash, and as you can tell from the video, today I'm going to be talking about Final Fantasy. Now, the Final Fantasy series, some people love it or some people hate it. Now, I love the Final Fantasy series, but I want to address something a little bit. When I was younger, I was never a Final Fantasy fan when I was younger. I didn't get into the series until I was 18. And that was back in 2010. I did hear about the Final Fantasy series when I was about 10 years old, when I was watching a Toonami review of Final Fantasy VIII on Cartoon Network. And I heard about the characters of Final Fantasy from playing the Kingdom Hearts games. But now that I'm older, I finally got a chance to play just about a lot of Final Fantasy games, and I like the franchise. So I decided to make a list about this series. So why not make a top list? Now before I begin, I just want to clarify something. 1. I'm only including the main Final Fantasy series. What I mean by that is Final Fantasy 1, from Final Fantasy 1 all the way to Final Fantasy 14. 2, Final Fantasy 15 has not been released yet, so yes, it has not come out yet, so I will not be talking about it. Because if it does, whenever it comes out, and then I will make another list, depending on if I like 15 or not. 3, no spin-off games. As much as I love Dissidia Duodecim, it would easily be ranked number 1 since it is my favorite fighting game of all time. I'm only including the main series, not the spin-offs. And finally, please keep in mind that this is my personal opinion. These are the Final Fantasy games that I love. If you have a problem with me liking these games, that's okay, but don't go whining and bitching about it. So, I guess that we got that intro out of the way. Let's get this list started. I'm Shadow Ash, and this is my top 10 Final Fantasy games of all time. Alright, starting off this top 10 is Final Fantasy. The original, that is. Now, normally I'm not really a big fan of the NES games. Don't get me wrong, it's an okay console, but most of the games are just annoyingly difficult. The only NES games I will ever play are Legend of Zelda, Mega Man 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, and this one, which is actually my favorite NES game. Now, don't get me wrong, this game is not easy. I mean, I died in this one a lot. Now, when you start Final Fantasy, you pick 4 classes, and you can pick any class you want. You can pick Warrior, or Red Mage, or Red Mage, Black Mage, White Mage, and etc. The story of the game, basically, you play as 4 Warriors of Light who have been chosen to defeat the god of discord known as Chaos, and your journey starts off with you and your comrades traveling through the land of Corneria to rescue a princess from an evil knight known as Garland, who serves as a servant of Chaos. Now, the story, it was kind of messy in my opinion, though, like I said, it's the first game in the series, so, yeah. There are a lot of imports of of the NES version. There's the PlayStation version, which is from Final Fantasy Origins, which has Final Fantasy 2. Then there's, I believe there's a Game Boy Advance version, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure there's one on the PSP. And I would like to get the PSP version of the game someday. But yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Like I said, it's only in number 10 due to its annoying difficulty and how frustrated I get while playing it. but I still think it's pretty good. So yeah, how can I not make a Final Fantasy list without talking about the original? But yeah, either way, as I said before, it's my favorite NES games, and one of the few NES games I'll ever play. Coming in at number 9 is Final Fantasy X. Now, I know some of you guys are probably thinking this game should be a little bit higher, but let me be honest here. Out of all the 3D Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy X is probably my least favorite. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, don't get me wrong. It's a good game. But I'll be honest, there are some flaws with this one. But first, I guess I can explain the positives. First of all, I thought the Spear Grid was an okay level up system. To the idea of switching party characters during battle is actually a pretty smart idea. And I absolutely loved the Aeon system. That was really good. The things I did not like about Final Fantasy X was the Blitzball tournaments. I really don't like playing that. I'm not really a big fan of sports games, but I'm not really a big fan of Blitzball. Of the Blitzballs minigames. Second, is the story. It's just so freaking confusing. And trust me, it gets really confusing with the sequel. And finally, the characters. Most of the characters I can at least tolerate, or I thought were pretty good, but I guess I can explain most of them. Now, I know there are a lot of people who actually hate Tidus. Personally, I actually think he was okay, I guess. I'm not saying I don't like him, I don't hate him. I just find him okay. I did like his role in Final Fantasy X, though. I was able to tolerate with him. And he's voiced by the same guy who voiced Ratchet from the Ratchet and Clank series. However, I really did not like him whining about his so-called daddy issues, about wanting to be better than his old man. I found that really annoying. But yeah. Other characters, Auron was pretty badass, especially in Kingdom Hearts 2, which I liked. I really don't like Wakka all that much. I thought his voice actor was really bad. And I just found him to be the most boring character in the series. Kimahri was he was okay, I guess. Lulu, sure, she can be a bitch, but she's actually very likable. Riku, I really don't care for Riku that much. However, Yuna is by far my favorite. I love Yuna. I think she's probably the best. So, yeah. Also, a lot of you guys are probably asking me what I think of the sequel, Final Fantasy X-2. I haven't actually played it. I like to play it at some point, but don't know if I should get the HD version, which recently came out 2 days ago, or the original PS2 version. If I do, because I have Final Fantasy X on PS2, and I got it a couple days before, a year before the release of the HD version of Final Fantasy X. But still. However, but yeah. I still think Final Fantasy X is a good game, but like I said, there are more Final Fantasy games I like more than this one, but like I said, I like this one more than the original, but not as good as the others. Taking the number 8 spot is Final Fantasy V. Possibly I consider this to be one of the most silliest Final Fantasy games I've ever played. And this is actually one of the rarest Final Fantasy games, aside from 3 and 2. First of all, this game was never released outside of Japan in 1992. It was originally on the Super Famicom, which was a Japanese exclusive version of the Super Nintendo, and that kind of pissed off of some Final Fantasy fans. which is also sad because Final Fantasy VI was the third Final Fantasy game released outside of Japan instead of Final Fantasy V. But thankfully, we've got the international version with the release of Final Fantasy Anthology for the PlayStation, which is the version that I own. Final Fantasy V is also available on Game Boy Advance and, surprisingly, on iOS. Personally, I play the Anthology version. Now, the reason why I like Final Fantasy V a little bit more than the original is because of the fact, while it does have the same story as the original game, it's more storytelling and, the coolest thing ever, job class changing. You can switch just about any job class you want. Like, tired of being the monk? Be a white mage. Tired of being a white mage? Be a black mage. That's what I really like about the game. In fact, I liked how this game had more classes than Final Fantasy III did. Don't even get me started with 3. But as for the story, it's pretty good. But the only thing I don't like about Final Fantasy V are some of the weird-ass classes. I mean, dancer? Who the hell wants to play as a dancer? And don't even get me started with the mime. Ugh. Don't even get me started. And the characters, most of them I just find boring and okay, I guess. The only character I actually liked was Varys. I mean, sure, she kind of starts off as a bit of a bitch at times, but she actually grows into a very more developed character. Which is one of the few reasons why I like her so much. And before anybody can ask me what I think of X-Death, he's an idiot, so cliche, but I will admit his idea of trying to swallow the world in the void is, okay, I guess. And Bart's, oh god, don't even get me started with that idiot. Especially his role in Duodecim. Oh boy. But I will say this, Final Fantasy V is a good game. It's really good, but not as good as the other games that I like more. Taken number 7 is Final Fantasy XIII. Now, Final Fantasy XIII is a game that many people like, or many people hate. Most people consider this to be the worst of the main series outside of the MMOs. But most people actually think it was kind of underrated. Personally, this is kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I do not think Final Fantasy XIII is that bad. I am aware of the flaws it has, but I do like a couple things. But first of all, a little history lesson for you guys. Final Fantasy XIII, believe it or not, as I said before, I didn't start playing Final Fantasy games until I was 18 years old in 2010. On Christmas of 2010, one of my Christmas presents I got was Final Fantasy XIII on PlayStation 3. And I actually thought it was really damn good. There are some things I do like about Final Fantasy XIII. The graphics are just so good. Because it is a PlayStation 3 game or Xbox 360, whatever console you buy it. First of all, I actually like the Paragadrium system, because I love changing the effects of the battles. Now, and there are some characters I think that are, I just don't think some of the characters don't get a lot of character development. The only 2 characters I like in 13 are Lightning and Fang. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Lightning's a big bitch. Why do you like her? Because seriously, I like femme fatales, and Lightning's a badass girl you do not want to screw with. Also, I like her version of the Gunblade better than Squall's Gunblade. there are other characters I don't like in Final Fantasy 13, like Snow. I thought he was so cliche. Vanille, I really don't care for Vanille that much. And then there's Hope. Oh god, don't even get me started with that whiny, annoying little kid who does not shut up about his mom. Oh boy. I hate Hope. Another thing that I don't like about Final Fantasy 13 is, the exploration of the overworld. Basically, I just don't like it. Because the camera gets really screwed at times, and I just don't like that. I liked it, the overworld exploration better from the past 12 Final Fantasy games than in this one. And please know, Final Fantasy 15 is gonna be, might be a little bit better. I'm just saying. Another thing that I don't like about the game is the Eidolons. Here's the thing. When you come across your Eidolon, they cast Doom on you. And if time runs out, you have to start the whole fucking fight all over again. And because of this, I still haven't beaten Final Fantasy 13. So I've been watching playthroughs of it all the time in hopes of trying to get past it. And I know how to do it, but I'm just not that quick. But yeah, there goes my rage for that. But still, I like Final Fantasy 13. I think it's a good game, but yeah. Though it is the first Final Fantasy game I ever played, there are other Final Fantasy games I like. So, whether if you love it or hate it, 13, like I said, I enjoyed it. Taking in at the number 6 spot is Final Fantasy VII. Whoa, hold on a minute. I know what you're thinking. Ashley, why would you put the greatest game in the Final Fantasy series, the greatest PlayStation game of all time, the greatest RPG of all time, and the greatest game of all time only at number 6? It's overrated. Now, before you start going rage quitting on me, just hear me out, okay? I do think Final Fantasy VII is good, but not that good, in my opinion. Not because of all the attention it's getting. There are stuff that I actually can get frustrated in. First of all, I didn't really care for the story of Final Fantasy VII all that much. I just felt like it was kind of rushed, even though it's 3 discs long, which is bullshit. Second, I fucking hate Hojo. I'll explain whenever I do a list of my most hated Final Fantasy characters. Then, of course, there is another thing that I did not like about Final Fantasy VII. Catching those goddamn chocobos and the graphics. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ashley, the graphics are not the biggest deal. To be honest, I just find the graphics to be really mushy. Thankfully, it does get improved in future Final Fantasy games, but I can understand why the graphics were like in the game. Originally, Squaresoft was going to make Final Fantasy VII for the N64, but they decided to move it to the PlayStation. Now, I kind of like that idea, but I didn't know about it until then. I didn't even know about Final Fantasy VII, because like I said, I didn't hear about the series until I was 10 years old. But there are some stuff that I do like about Final Fantasy VII. One are the characters. I do like Cloud Strife, even though he can be a bit of an emo, brooding dummy. Sephiroth, even though he's badass, he does tend to be a bit of a mama's boy. In fact, he doesn't do that much at all. All he does is just sends his clones to do all his dirty work all the time. And don't even get me started with Genova. It just gives me goosebumps. The other characters I do like sometimes, mostly my favorites are Vincent Valentine, Aerith, Yuffie, Tifa. I also like, Sid, and some other stuff. Some of the characters I hate, I especially hate Don Trino, that goddamn perverted asshole. Hojo, as you can tell, I have a huge hatred for that bastard. And, that's basically all I have to say. But I'm not trying to offend all you fans of Final Fantasy VII. I'm just saying this in my personal opinion. Overall, Final Fantasy VII, it's still a great game, but I still enjoy it. Is Final Fantasy VII overrated? Yep. Is it terrible? Fuck no!